So, India is facing this huge paradox. On one hand, its economy is absolutely booming, but on the other, it's staring right into the face of a gathering global storm. We're going to break down the country's latest economic survey to really understand this high-stakes situation. Let's dive right in.
Okay, so you've got India's economic engine just firing on all cylinders, but at the same time, it's sailing into some increasingly stormy global waters. The report calls this the paradox of 2025, and it's this idea that the country's strongest performance in decades is colliding head-on with a global system that's becoming dangerously unpredictable.
So, to really get a handle on India's challenge, we have to start with the big picture. Let's zoom out and take a look at the fragile global stage that India's now forced to operate on.
And the survey, well, it doesn't pull any punches. It says the key features of today's world are fragility and uncertainty. That margin for error, the buffer for things to go wrong without causing a total crisis, is now razor thin. We've basically moved from a world where trade was all about efficiency to one where it's all about security. And that, right there, changes everything.
The report lays out 3 potential paths for the world by 2026. The best-case scenario, and I use that term loosely, is managed disorder. Think of a shaky, distrustful world where even small shocks create massive waves. From there, it gets worse with a multipolar breakdown, and then you have the most dangerous scenario, a systemic shock cascade.
Now, let's just focus on that third scenario for a second. A 10 to 20% probability might not sound super high, but the survey is crystal clear. The consequences could be even worse than the 2008 financial crisis. This is the very definition of a low-probability, high-impact event that policymakers just cannot afford to ignore.
Okay, so with that pretty gloomy global picture in mind, let's bring it all back home to India. How does the country's incredible domestic success story stack up against this harsh new reality?
This right here is the success part of the paradox. Thanks to a lot of domestic reforms and massive public investment, the survey has actually revised India's potential growth rate upwards to 7%. That is a powerful signal of the economy's underlying strength. And it's not just about growth. The world is really taking notice. In 2025, S&P upgraded India's credit rating. That's the first time they've done that in almost 20 years. This is a massive vote of confidence from global financial markets in the country's policy direction and its stability. And this slide, wow, it just perfectly captures that core conflict, doesn't it? On the left, you've got all the signs of a stellar, red-hot economy. But then on the right, you see the harsh reality. The currency is underperforming, capital isn't flowing in like you'd expect, and investors are hesitant. So here's the bottom line. Strong domestic performance is just not being rewarded the way it used to be. The global rules of the game have fundamentally changed.
So, given this brand new, much tougher environment, what does the playbook for India even look like? Well, the survey proposes a pretty radical strategic shift.
I absolutely love this metaphor. It just perfectly captures the challenge. India needs the endurance for a long-term transformation. That's the marathon. But it has to execute with the urgency and intensity of a sprint. It's all about building long-term resilience and buffers, but doing it now, with absolutely no time to waste.
Now, a key part of this new playbook is for India to become what the survey calls an entrepreneurial state. Now, hold on, this doesn't mean the government starts trying to act like a business. No, it's about a whole new mindset for making policy in a deeply uncertain world. You have to act decisively, learn from experiments, and be ready to change course fast.
The survey also makes this really crucial argument about manufacturing versus services. While India's services exports are a huge success story, the report argues they just don't force the same deep, systemic upgrades that manufacturing does. I mean, think about it, right? To export cars, you need reliable power grids, efficient ports, smooth logistics. This forces broad improvements in what's called state capacity. And the survey argues this is the only way to build durable currency stability in the long run.
So, as we start to wrap this up, the economic survey frames India's path forward not just as a series of policy decisions, but as a profound, almost philosophical choice about its own future. The survey actually ends by drawing on some ancient wisdom from the Katha Upanishad. It frames the choice as one between Shreya, which is the enduring, long-term good, and Preya, the easy, fleeting comfort. It's all about choosing to build deep, lasting resilience rather than just going for the quick fixes.
And that leaves us with this final, powerful question. In a world that is breaking apart, with challenges at every single turn, Which path will India take? The choices being made right now will define its entire journey toward becoming a developed nation. It's a high-stakes marathon for sure, and the sprint has already begun.